hello. This is Introspective Self talking to you once again. Today, this time, we are coming to you with an interesting, very fascinating topic, and it's in the mind of each and every one of you, and in each and every one of us. And the topic is going to be resilience. Introspective Self is very interested in promoting positive streams, light thoughts, and self-awareness all together. This is the place where important conversations happen, and we are doing it so with the incredible amount of assistance from all of you, and we are definitely grateful for that. We are in a movement, in a development of something great that will take place and is taking place constantly on a constant basis. As a matter of fact, it's change, it's development, it's awareness. We are trying to develop more awareness, bring more awareness into what is the reality of our world right here, right now. And this time we'll bring to you this important topic, which is resilience. And for that matter, we are having our co-host right here, Mr. Greg Basilchiori. Welcome once again. We are so glad to have you. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks, Ramel. Thanks so much for having me back. No, this is wonderful. This is a good time. Yeah, yeah.
Excellent.
Great time to
I
be having this
totally agree.
topic.
I mean, you mentioned it's a good time indeed. It is a spring. It's the very grasp of spring. Is a few days coming into it, and boy, we can feel it. That the sun is shining bright,
Yeah,
and a clear blue sky is out there, and the breeze is also very strong. So yeah, we have an amazing temperature of 4 degrees still, but it's fantastic. It's fascinating just to appreciate that special change in the wind as well. With that said, introspective self is bringing us today the topic of resiliency. What is resiliency? And I personally mentioned last time that resiliency is in the mind of each and every individual in the world because of this so-called pandemic. Also, it's in the minds of every organization because resiliency is an essential tool to have in or if you want to be successful at something. I mean, if you want to be on that verge, on that grasp for the new thing. So it is about change, yes. It is about acquiring something greater than which is our purpose indeed. And it's also that important factor that it's courage. I will mention courage. I mean, it's something that we learn according to how we grow. Only a resilient individual will be able to create resilience uh, organizations or resilience programs. So we're going to go dive right into it, and for that we have Greg Vasilchiori. So thank you for being with us once again. What is resiliency? What have you in your research find about this specific topic, Greg? Welcome.
well, thanks, Ramel. I mean, so when we're talking about resilience, and again, it's important to mention that this is yet another piece out of the cocooning years, because and what I heard recently, and it may come as a surprise to some, but not to others, when we're talking about the pandemic, as you briefly mentioned, that we might be into this for another year or so before we finally find ourselves on the way out. So the cocooning years is based on what we've been going through since 2020. Now we're in 2021, and this will more than likely be going into 2022 to some extent. So.
Mhm.
And with this, it forces us all to isolate, stay inside. Some of us are on our own. Some, are with close family.
Yeah.
But needless to say, to one extent or another, we're forced to spend time alone with ourselves. And it's not a bad thing. It's actually a very good thing because what that does is it forces us to get to know ourselves better and to learn to be our own best company, which is really important at the end of the day. And so when we're talking about resilience, it's yet another chapter or another piece to this. And so we're talking about resilience. It says the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties or toughness. And I wouldn't even and when I say quickly, it's that's a relative term because I mean it's different for each person. There is no timeline. No one should put a timeline to this. And you know, the healing and the bounce back comes for each person differently and presents itself differently to each person as well. Um, so really, it's the ability of a substance, or in this case, you know, ourselves, to spring back into shape. Or if you're thinking of an elastic, you know, when it gets stretched and it bounces back to its original self, right? So, and when we bounce back from any tough situation to our original self, we're not original anymore because we've grown from that experience. We've become stronger for that experience.
Right.
So that's important to point out as well. If you look at Wikipedia, uh, their definition of resilience has to do, they compare that to the fields of engineering and construction. So resilience is ability to absorb or avoid damage without suffering complete failure, and is an objective of design, maintenance, and restoration for buildings and infrastructure, as well as communities. So that's how they define it. Um, but it's of course it's more comprehensive than that. So it really has to do with the ability to respond, absorb, and adapt, as well as recovering um, in from a disruptive event and in a disruptive event. So a resilient structure or system or community is expected to be able to resist to an extreme event after the event, and that it should be able to rapidly recover its functionality as well, which is really important to point out as well. Um, Similar or even better than how one was before the event, at the pre-event level.
Okay. Oh
Okay.
wow, that
Yeah.
that is very very interesting. I mean, considering that you are characterizing a specific area of resiliency, which is architecture and construction, right? That's
Well,
one
but
area of.
I'm
I'm
comparing it.
kind of
Yeah, I'm
sorry.
comparing it to that because it just gives another perspective. That's all. So I'm going to be coming back to self now with how that looks to this, right? So,
Yeah,
which is important
totally
to
agree.
point out.
No, I understand. It's a great perspective to have.
Yeah.
It's because they are oriented towards the outcome of one area. Yeah, and you are oriented towards the general outcome for sure. I totally agree. Um, well, generally, resiliency, like I mentioned before, will introspective self uh, takes this information, absorb it, put it into status quo, analyze it completely, and brings it out as a form of a tool. So we
Mhm.
are going to transform it, and we are going to offer this to all of you who are watching right now. And so be on the look for change, for certainly, because this is an amazing tool to have. So yes, go for it.
Thanks. Yeah, no,
Additionally, there are so many elements into resiliency, right, Greg? What do you think the elements of resiliency, considering the childhood, how you grow up with this specific topic? I mean, a child usually is very fluent in many different things. He falls, he stands up again, and continues on. Right? That's the very beginning of resiliency. I will start with that, isn't it?
well, yeah. So I mean, yeah. I mean, one can look at it from that perspective, and that's important, you know, to look at it from a child's perspective. I mean, the thing is that um, what we're so really that child, what that child is doing is looking at things from a positive perspective.
Okay.
right? So if they fall, like for example, giving that example of them falling and then able to stand up again, well, they're not stuck in that fall. They're not stuck there. So when they're down, right, they may cry. Some of them may not cry, depending on what the situation is, and also depending on how those around that child perceive the event. Because if they see that as being a traumatic event, that child will pick up on the energy of the adults around them that see that as a tragic event, and that will encourage them to cry and think, oh, this is a really bad situation that I've found myself in. Whereas if the adults around that child were all positive and would say, "Oh, you fell, come on, get up, let's go, come on, we're gonna go catch a movie, or we're gonna go and have that dessert," well, right away the child will forget about what's just happened and already be thinking about the next thing that's coming up. That's a really positive event.
Because he's living in the moment, in the very instant, right there.
Exactly,
So
that's right. Yeah, they live in the present. Yeah,
one characteristic of resiliency that we have to look at, right?
yeah. However, as we become older and we become adults, it's easier to lose sight of living in the moment. But we should always be living in the moment. We should always be living in the present. And we've talked about this in previous talks as well, the importance of that. But and in order to do that, part of that is also believing in something greater than ourselves. So believing in that higher power, for example, believing in that universal consciousness, having that awareness, having that understanding, and knowing also that change is inevitable, change is going to happen, nothing remains the same, right? So we may find ourselves in a period that we're really of enjoyment, fulfillment, where we're riding that wave. And but the thing is that with all waves, they do come down again, and so and change. Everything changes, and so we have to be prepared for that change. We have to be prepared that, and being prepared is not that we can't control it. We can't control when it's going to happen or how it's going to happen necessarily. But being prepared is just knowing that eventually something else will come, something else will happen, and and um, and not all change is bad change. But when we're talking about resilience, it's usually it's affiliated with something that could be negative, but it could also be affiliated with something that's positive as well. Because when we're talking about resilience, we're talking about change, and when we're talking about change, it's looking at, so even if it's a positive change, if it's something that's a really big change, for example, like changing jobs, entering into a new relationship, someone proposing marriage. All these can be scary, and it's important to be able to show resiliency within that, because we because if we're resilient, then and we have that yes attitude, because a yes attitude also coincides with resilience. It'll make it easier to get through whatever situation we're faced with, right? Um, so it's the ability to, again, to remain positive and have that positive spirit in the face of adversity or difficulty, right? And it doesn't matter what one's background is in terms of spiritual or religious beliefs or whatever the case is. Resiliency is important for everybody. We all have to have that, right? We all have to show that. So we and then and what and to be resilient, we're also drawing from our own set of beliefs. So not someone else's per se, but our own. You know, we can think of sometimes picturing a family member or a good friend that's really serene, that can stay positive in any situation, that gives the perception that they're not bothered by any negative situation that comes up. Those are the people that we want to, those are the belief systems and the people that we want to hold close to us when it comes to change.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so then we're going to be looking at, okay, so there are, so looking at things from Dr. Deborah Rebel's perspective, are you the type of person who bounces, or do you fall down and stay down? So, for example, like, so when you come into a difficult situation, and you being anybody who's listening, are you the sort of person that metaphorically or realistically falls down and stays there and has a dip and cannot get back up, or just finds it too difficult to get back up? Or are you the sort of person that bounces back from that situation and just dusts themselves off and just keeps going,
That's a
and doesn't allow whatever situation to affect them or affect them that much, right? So, because we all have choice in that, how much do we allow a situation to keep us back and to keep us down, which is really important. And this, of course, has something to do with when you're hit with something unexpectedly, and how you handle that.
right.
Okay. Are you just getting by? So are you are you coping, or are you thriving? Right? There's a big difference in coping and thriving. So coping is where one's surviving or just getting by. Thriving is where one doesn't allow what's just happened to keep them down, doesn't affect them in a negative way, to hold them back from doing what they want and to have accomplished what they want to have accomplished, and they just keep going. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so spiritual resilience.
I mean, if you want to cope with that specific action, I mean, do you have the tools? Do you don't have the tools? So it's a matter
Right.
of getting this right. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, absolutely. We all need to have those right tools, and it's okay if one doesn't have the tools. The first step to knowing that is to be conscious of it, and then, because once we become conscious of the fact we don't have the tools, then we'll start searching outside of ourselves, and then also inside, because everything we need is actually inside. But so many people look outside for those tools, but we actually have it all within, in order to get
Right.
ourselves by and to do what we need to do. Right. Um, so spiritual resilience is what makes the difference between coping and thriving in one's life. Um, so it gives us the strength to not only to get up and rise to whatever challenge or challenges that we're being faced with and the hardship, but to use it as a catalyst, if you will, to grow ourselves spiritually. And to do so, we have to trust that our spirit is much stronger than any situation that we're being faced with or that we may face. Which is really important to point out as well. And also that with every setback comes a greater transformation, because we may find ourselves taking a couple of steps forward and then we find ourselves taking a few steps back, and that can happen, but then that will propel us even more forward.
Can
Right?
you
Because
can you deepen a bit more into your perspective? You said it's essential to be spiritual. That's what you mean.
Mhm.
That will be the difference between being thriving or being just coping. Mm-hmm.
Right. So thriving spiritually means that one has an understanding that you know that what we're dealing with right now in this physical organic plane, um, really what this is like one giant illusion.
Okay.
Right. What has happened? What will happen has already happened.
Right.
And this gets into things that are a little bit deeper, and and it's important that people take what I'm saying that makes sense, and disregard what it is that has no meaning to you with what I'm about to say. But really, when we're talking about having that spiritual awareness, is having that awareness that there's a universal consciousness that's the creator of all things, that we're a part of all things. It's a part of us. Um, where one may find themselves in that difficult or challenging situation is just a moment in time. It's not a forever thing. It will pass. And depending on one's resiliency and on one's spiritual awareness, will allow one to either move much quicker or slower through that change, depending.
Aha.
Yeah. So,
Interesting.
and everything that happens to us is there to teach us, life lessons, lessons about ourselves, first and most importantly, and also to allow us to become stronger for whatever it is that we go through. It's a hurdle. That's all it is just another hurdle. It may seem like a brick wall, but that's just an illusion. It's really just a hurdle. So, and when we're
And
talking about different things that
it's
happen,
habitual. It's a habitual process. I mean, when we come to this three-dimensional world, it's everything about habits. We learn new domestication kind of, right? We learn everything. I mean, what the names of everything. We start with the names. We start with the colors. We start with the figures. We start with the contexture. I mean, this is solid. And then as kids, we start grasping those ideas, and then we believe them. And then, obviously, we are being bombarded with new ideas and new education on top of education, on top of education. So it's a total domestication, and we are totally fogged by the reality of who we are, I
well, I
guess.
always say, kids are the most innocent people you ever meet, and then we get to them as adults, and then that changes everything for them. And then, we spend the whole rest of our lives trying to unbrainwash ourselves. Meanwhile, we're still being brainwashed.
Your
So,
terminology, I kind of I agree and disagree, because I try not to re-brainwash people. I try
oh
to
no, 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 no! It's not about you trying to brainwash people. We're just constantly being brainwashed by things that we read, things that we see, things that we encounter on a day-to-day basis, and then we process
right.
it, and we're trying to unbrainwash ourselves from the stuff that we're seeing even day to day. In addition to that, a lot of the stuff that was taught to us as kids, we're trying to weed through all that as well. That's what I mean by, you know, we're trying to unbrainwash ourselves while we're still being brainwashed. And
Perfect. All
subconsciously,
right.
we are brainwashing other people because with stuff that we hear and see that we take in may not be true, but we think it might be true, and without knowing, we're transmitting that to others as well.
Right.
Right? That
Right.
happens. Yeah. Hmm.
Totally. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, you were mentioning all these little points. So what number is this one? Spiritual resilience. I love it.
Yeah, so basically what we have to look at is, any type of change is huge. And when we're talking about change, we're talking about resiliency. Again, it could be the loss of a business, it could be loss of a job, it could be loss of a spouse, loss of a good close friend, or another
Mhm.
family, loss of another family member. It could be that one has been scammed out of a whole lot of money. It could be so or so it could be that one was involved in a minor car accident. It could be, I mean, it could be a whole host of different things. So because when we're talking about resiliency, it usually has to do with a negative event that's taken place, not necessarily a positive event. But it could also be a positive event in that, for example, one might be faced with um, one has just realized or has just learned that someone wants them to come in and form a business partnership with them, and that business might be doing right, and so it could completely change that person's life for the better. But yet, that person within may not feel on a subconscious level that they deserve that or that they're ready for that kind of change, and so
In
that
project
makes
management, I mean, they analyze at the end of the project. They analyze what worked and what didn't work, and that's one way of getting the tools for resiliency next project.
right. That's right. But needless to say, that could be seen as a potential positive change, and yet that person doesn't go through with that because again, what's going on within themselves and how they perceive themselves, right? And that also goes back to resiliency, right? And how
Yes.
resilient someone is to be able to say, you know what, I'm a yes person. I accept that challenge. I'll take that challenge. I'll rise to that challenge, and I'll do my best to make that outcome work to my benefit.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
So the feelings that one may feel when they're going through that could be feelings of being anxious, feelings of being overwhelmed, right? They may have feelings of being overwhelmed, um, or feeling that they're stuck in a certain situation, like in a negative situation that they can't break out of. So, so it's important that to know that one can find emotional balance within that, and one can also let go of any expectations and go with the flow. So when one remains open and receptive, one is able to tap into that divine flow of energy or that universal consciousness, and trust that whatever it is that's happening is for the highest and greatest good. Because
Okay.
what's really happening is that we want to evolve, and we need to evolve as an individual, and when we're not resilient, when we don't accept change, and we try to resist and hold on to where we are or what we've had, no matter how negative it may be, it's comfortable, and we're not allowing ourselves the opportunity to grow and expand the way that we're supposed to.
When you say evolve, what do you mean by evolve? We want to evolve.
Well, to evolve physically, mentally, spiritually.
Oh, you mean to grow? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. Yeah,
Okay. So we
yeah.
want to grow spiritually, development to develop ourselves better.
Do that.
Okay.
We need to do that. And when we're not showing resilience or lack thereof, and when we want to stay where we are, where we're comfortable, then what's happening is that we're not allowing ourselves to grow in the way that
Uh-huh.
we're supposed to. Yeah, on those
Very
levels.
good. Very sounds fantastic. Wow. And one of the reasons why we are not allowing ourselves is actually fear. We just spoke that in the last episode, and
It's all about
that's
fear. Yeah.
one of the major factors that is opposing us to grow. Growth
Yes.
develop, develops, and we have to overcome all of those challenges, of course.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like it's like it's like and I refer to this, it's like a surfer riding a wave. Once you trust the experience and relax rather than resisting it, you'll move much smoothly through the wave, and having that awareness and balance and flexibility, and one can keep from falling off their board and being caught in the undertow of that wave, or metaphorically of life, right? So, and I use that term a lot, catching that wave. When you catch that wave, take it for all it's worth, because we never know how long it's going to last. And with every wave, that eventually it will break, and the calm waters will come back, and then we're just treading water again until the next wave comes that we can catch.
Well, you're talking kind of cycles. I mean, cycles in life is everything is cycles. I mean,
Everything's
the
cycles.
planet getting around the earth, day, night, and those type of things, right? They are all cycles, and we can determine the human body in cycles as well. I mean, the future, the present, and the past,
Yeah,
right?
and another
All those are cycles.
It's true. Yeah, absolutely. And another example to use, is going back to when we're talking about the uh, when we're talking about those spiritual laws, and you're looking at the pendulum swing. So
Oh,
the pendulum swings in both directions, and when it swings to the left, well, that's when positive change is coming, and for us to ride that as much as we can, because eventually the pendulum is going to come back and swing back to the right, right?
something
So
we mentioned about that is that we, for example, if we look for change, if we are happy and if we are sad and we want to be happy, the pendulum will swing, right? We do the necessary accomplishments to swing the pendulum to the opposite side, but we have
right,
to be
that's
certain that
right.
what is
Yes,
exactly what we want. What is exactly what we want, because the pendulum is going back and forth. So what we actually want is less movement, less swinging, and try to be in the now, in the middle path, or somewhere that it doesn't swing too much. So you are much more conscious, or much more present, much more aware of the situation going on in the. So that's all about the pendulum
Yeah, that's right.
idea.
That's right. So yeah, so because if it swings, yeah, you don't want it to swing too much to the right because it's going to swing that much further back. Sorry, you don't want to swing too much to the left because the more it swings to the left, the more it's going to swing back to the right. So the more you can
That's what
keep
I
it steady, right, then you're living a much more well balanced life, right? Not you, but
that's,
again,
yeah, that's,
anybody who's listening to this. Yes, yeah,
yes, very
okay,
important to
very important, and that's all about resiliency as well.
yeah.
So we need to develop a positive mindset. Um, so now we're going to be talking about 6 ways of strengthening our spiritual resilience, and where we're not only surviving but thriving. Okay, so developing a positive mindset is important. That's the first one. So the bounce back. So from negative emotions and experiences, being able to do that, quickly and efficiently and effectively. So these people, they use a positive mindset to cope with and find meaning in difficult situations by remaining positive, even through the negative situation or bad situation. And those folks who are resilient um, maintain a higher vibration of energy, which contributes to their physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being, as which we were talking about just a few minutes ago. And keeping all 3 of those in balance is important, right? So, um,
Yeah, yeah. That was number one, actually, from what you mentioned originally. The number one factor is how we program ourselves, how we perceive the world. How do we want to perceive? We want to perceive it negatively. Of course, we're going in that direction because that's your focus. Your
yes,
focus has to be oriented towards what you want to accomplish. And perhaps if you want to accomplish top, look at the top, look up. Uh, and that's priority. I mean, who doesn't want to look up unless you are totally oppressed to look down. And even when you look down, you are constantly reminding yourself as a human being, naturally driven to light. Even though you are looking in the dark, even though you are in the dark, you are coping for mechanisms to bring you back because we are springs. We are so powerful in many different ways. And that spring, when we look down, we look deep, and suddenly we spring back. It's, it's,
yeah,
it's incredible
yeah,
how we normally cope. It's human nature. So don't worry about what situation you are in. Absorb it, assimilate it. Pain is important, and pain is actually drastical in the resiliency factor. Pain is an amazing tool we can actually endure because that will be the difference between success and failure.
for sure,
That's
for
all I
sure.
can.
Yeah, and also thinking, and as you say, I mean, it's always important to see the glasses being half full rather than half empty, because again, it'll just make it a lot more easy for us to be resilient and to be positive, even if we don't feel that way at the time. Um, so, in order to do the devastating effects of negative thinking, one needs to be thinking 3 times as many positive thoughts to override the one negative one, which is important. And the moment that we notice any negative thoughts, it's important to pause, take a few deep breaths, and then shift our attention from the from our head, from our thoughts to our heart. Right, that's important. And this positive tipping point is not, of course, in the moment, it's not an easy thing to achieve, but it's something that, if one consciously works at, they will achieve that, and they will get to the point where they're able to do that. So one starts developing a more positive thought base, then one broadens their positive perspective as well. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
The second one is is are you, this is an analogy I like to use. So are you an oak tree, a maple tree, or a bamboo
Oh, oh
when it
yeah,
comes to change,
flexibility.
right? So so if one thinks of a windstorm as the winds of change, right? Well, that maple tree um, would be the first to be blown over because it's not as strong as the oak. The oak is a much thicker, stronger tree that can withstand stronger winds. But even then, eventually, if that wind is strong enough, it will still blow that oak over. Whereas the bamboo is a lot more flexible and will bend in whatever direction the wind is blowing. And then once the wind or the change stops, then it'll right itself again. So
Right.
really, the bamboo is the most resilient out of the three.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, we're talking flexibility. Yes, indeed. Flexibility is all about what introspective self does. Introspective self absorbs or understands the status quo. We totally get involved. We get into what it is that is happening in that specific moment that we are focused on. We understand it completely. We move towards that suffering, that chaos, that chaotic situation that is going on in there. We go into it. We analyze
Yeah,
it completely. We absorb. We perceive. We suffer. But
it's
that
true.
suffering
True.
is important to understand it, because if
Yes,
we do not understand it completely, we are not being flexible. We if we want to actually we can withstand certain things, but with certain things we cannot. For example, the pandemic. I mean, this is global and stuff. We have to go through it. We have to analyze it. What is happening there? What is the reality that's happening? Once you are in there, it's not that bad.
no, no, that's
Because
right. That's right.
you are aware of everything that is happening. You are grasping the walls of change, like I mentioned before, and that flexibility that Greg is mentioning is all about understanding. It's all about coping mechanisms that we operate in between the different chaotic situations that are coming. So one after the other comes, the other one comes, the other one comes. We apply, and by the end of the day, you have overcome them all. And that's about flexibility. That's all about flexibility.
Absolutely, absolutely, and so so really, yeah. So and that requires us to be more open, receptive, and adaptable um, to life as as it unfolds around us. And
Yeah.
and of course, there's a lot of ups and downs, twists and turns, and that different forks in the road that will come up, all through life. Um, but the more that we're accepting of ourselves and others, and the more that we're positively tolerant of what we don't, and the more that we're passively tolerant of what we don't like, um, and we're able to adapt and to be more resilient, which is important. And so, um, and we can't give in. We can't ignore injustice or give in to everyone's whims. We need to accept life as it comes and trust that we're getting exactly what we want or need to spiritually grow at any time. That's also important.
Wow, you should
we,
trust. Yeah, you have to have faith. Faith,
that's right.
faith is
That's right.
important. Trust is important. You have to believe in yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so for those who are, controlling of others or their life or their situations, one has to learn to let go of that. Um, Particularly, letting go of trying to control areas that one cannot control, um, and and also this because this helps one to stay centered and to be more positive and use of any challenge that comes into one's life. Um, and it's important to see the problems as ways to be open and to play with all the different possibilities. So, and life will evolve miraculously when one embraces the philosophy of let's just see what happens,
Uh-huh.
right?
Well, let's
We're
just
taking
happens.
things
No, not really.
seriously.
have to go through with the perspective of positivism. We are going to make it happen. Not let's just see what happens, because we got to go with a positive mind of this is going to happen, because we
Well,
have
no, no,
going to
no.
happen. If
Well,
you
the
do not,
thing is that going, no, no, attacking each thing of let's just see what happens, it
okay,
takes a lot of pressure off. Because if
okay,
one looks at it like, okay, I have to make this happen, this has to happen, one is putting more pressure on themselves. And because one is setting up the expectation that this has to work.
no, 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 no.
This has to
You
happen.
have to have a plan, or you have to know. You have to have a vision where you're going. But when you know where you're
Having a
going,
vision,
you will
but
reach there,
okay,
or
so
at least have the road.
but saying let's just see what happens, it's not taking away from the vision,
Okay,
Ramel. It
so it's
doesn't
an
take away from
additional.
the vision.
Okay,
What it
okay,
does by saying, let's just see what happens if I do this, it's the contrary, because when one says, let me see what happens if I do this, well, one is being open to doing it, but
okay.
they're allowing the universe to be in control.
Okay, so it's actually actually a factor of let's try it. That's what you meant. All right. Yeah.
Exactly,
All right.
that's right. And one is still going to give it their all, but by saying let's just see what happens, they're not putting any expectation. Like if this
That's right.
works, great. If it doesn't work, that's fine too. But I'm still going to do my best. Either way, I'm still doing my best. But when they say let's just see what happens, yeah.
You just remind me of Mario Bros. Game, the game, an old game we had when we were a child. Yeah, the game teaches a lot. The game teaches actually to go into it and play the games, and you lose so many battles, but at the end you learn new skills. You keep on winning, and you keep on advancing levels, which is fantastic. What you mean? You tried and tried and tried until you reach the end, and since you have flexibility, the flexibility of understanding or accepting that you will lose certain battles. The next one will get better. So yeah,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
that's all about resilience right there.
Which brings us to the next one, which is number 3: trusting and let go of your expectations.
Aha! Wow!
Right. So
Trust. How do we trust our expectations? Right, Greg?
trust and let go of our expectations, not trusting our
Oh, let's
expectations,
go.
letting go of them.
Let's go. This. Yeah. Okay.
Letting go of expectations, because an expectation is where one is setting themselves up for potential failure, because what they're saying is that if I do this, this will happen. And then if that
Perfect.
doesn't happen, then one is going to beat themselves up for it not happening.
So that's flexibility as well, right there. Okay. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So letting go of expectations and just trusting. Okay, let me try this. Whatever happens, happens. At least I've tried it. Right?
Okay.
That's important. So
Great.
trusting ourselves, letting go of trying to control our life, allowing it simply to unfold, letting go of, again, of any expectations, any preconceived plans, or embracing whatever comes our way, surrendering any expectations of how life should be, and focusing our intentions on creating what it is and how it is we want it to be.
Yes.
Right? That's important. So
Very good.
rather than attempting to control events through our own personal force or will, embracing the experience, taking deep breaths, relaxing rather than resisting. This will
Yeah.
help the situation in a healthy, it will help with detachment from any perceived outcomes. This helps us to stay centered, peaceful, and make positive use of any situation that comes into our life. Using the serenity of and prayer when one needs a reminder to accept the things that we cannot change, such as, for example, we can't control others, we can only control ourselves, and having the courage to change the things that we can, again, ourselves. The next one is responding rather than reacting. So,
Uh-huh.
so while we may not be able to control other people or certain situations, we can choose how we're going to perceive and respond to them. So the moment that that we find ourselves in a negative. So the moment that we react to something negative, or we need to pause, take a few deep breaths, and then we need to shift our attention again from our head to our heart, which we talked about before, right? And
You you mentioned the fact that you under stress situations, we tend to be fog, we mental fog. We suffer from mental fog.
that's right. That's right.
Under a very stressful situation, we is always very emotional. The emotions cloud our mind, and perhaps we don't think clear, and we react, and we overreact, like I mentioned. And what to do with that when that happens? Let's focus on one thing and one thing only, and then, for example, think of actually this is better. It's a great exercise. Think of 5 things that you like the most at that moment, at that stressful moment. Think of 5 things that
Yeah.
you will do for the persons that are around you, or you will, for example, something that you really like. Think about the sun, think about this, and think about that, and see five things. Also, breathe normally. Start breathing. Remind yourself to breathe, and then think of four actually things that you actually will do this present instant. I think I should have written that down. I totally forgot about it. It's a very interesting thing, but the idea of the whole thing is that you have to focus your mind on those specific topics that you have to do. Five,
Right.
4, 3, 2. By the end you reach 1, you are much more calm. You are much more this stress, and perhaps you are more thinking more clear, and then you can take action. So before you anything else, when a chaotic situation happens to you, think those five steps until you are calm, and then make an action, make a move. Very
Well, the
important.
and the 5 things also is incorporating the 5 senses.
There you go.
Right?
Awesome. Awesome.
So it
Yeah.
could be, so for example, as you're saying, I mean, so when one's caught in that stressful situation and they realize that, so deep breathing is the first step, but concentrating on the breath as it goes in through the nose, hold it for 3 or 4 seconds and release through the mouth.
Excellent.
Picturing oneself, it could be sitting on a beach, it could be sitting on the bench in a park, smelling the flowers or the air. What does it smell like? Feeling that, feeling your backside on the bench. You could be sitting on the grass. You could be sitting on the sand on a beach, so feeling the sand. On your feet, feeling the sand in your hands.
I wish
Um,
this kind of questions will happen there, but it doesn't.
yeah, no, for sure, right? So, and maybe tasting the salt in the air, from the ocean. You know, so again, it's incorporating, hearing the birds, hearing the wind. So if one can
Incorporating
incorporate
the
all their
senses.
senses into that, that's really good. Yeah,
Very
yeah,
interesting. I like it. I like that. Yeah, actually, it sounds better. Yes, indeed.
yeah.
It already offer a reaction. I mean, the beach, the sunlight, the sand, the smell of the waves and stuff. Yeah, perfect.
Feeling the
I
warmth
can
of the
smell.
sun on the skin. Yeah, yeah, for sure, right?
I feel in the ocean already. Air passing by is the waves. Oh wow.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
Excellent,
That's
excellent.
great. So, yeah, journaling can also be a good way of de-stressing as well.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
this is
that
very
also brings us back into the now, right? So brings us back
and
into
there's
the
other
present.
ways of journaling. I mean, we are journaling right now, and this very instant by videotaping this stuff. Uh-huh.
Yeah, right. So when we react from our head or our mind, that's when, why did this happen to me? Why am I going, what's happening? Or are we responding from our heart space, which is trust? And so what is this situation revealing to me about myself? And so if we reacted by blaming, judging, or berating or beating ourselves up or others, then one is reinforcing a negative mindset. And this actually feeds our fear and creates more worry. However, if we respond with trust that everything will be okay, we're strengthening a positive mindset. And how we respond to what happens in our life determines a life free of fear and only full of peace. Right, which
Okay.
is important. So the next one, number 5, is cultivating a soul support group and asking and knowing when to ask for assistance. No matter who we meet who's successful, and it doesn't matter how one looks at what success is. Each of those people have a circle of people around them that they know they can turn to in their time of need, and who won't betray them.
Yes. Assistance. I mean, wow. It's recognizing the nature of human conditions, human uh, matter. We are all interconnected to one to another, and we do not function individually. We function as a collective,
That's right.
and that's is nature in humans. Uh,
Absolutely, absolutely.
our our bodies is it looks like a one piece, but it's a collection of different systems. Same thing. What we see in our bodies, we see in the exterior part, in a real mental, in our real life, and it's a system. It's a system. It's organizations. We form systems. We form societies. We form countries and stuff. With families. I mean, nucleus, and all those little components of the big society, right? So it is
True.
essential to be in that communication. And so try to be much more open, much more communicative in socializing instead of tribal. Tribalism is a congregated one way of thinking, organism, but without communication with the other tribals, there won't be any assistance. So to open an assistance, what you mentioned, open that gap. It's like a bridge of communication with the others, and very, very important to have that interaction, because the other one might know other things that we do not know, and that is very essential for all of the world to be in touch, in connection. So I noticed that nowadays that people are trying to put uh, shields or of regulations in between countries. I
Right.
cannot watch information that's happening in other countries, so they're kind of blocking the information. That's actually tribalism. It's not good for the open bridge that we are mentioning. So we have to look for something like that, and
Yeah. Yeah.
evade, escalate to the next level.
Agreed. No, I agree. I agree. And also, it's important for us to, in order to be positive, to look at the circle of people that we have around us, and if they're negative, then we need to remove them or really distance ourselves from them and make sure that we're surrounded by those who are more positive.
Well, the negativity personally, I adopted because it's a learning factor. Maybe they're trying to teach us something that we have within. That's what
But
I
the thing
see. I
is
don't know.
that once we get the learning that we need to get, then we can distance ourselves from them, or we may find ourselves just cutting them completely out of our life because we no longer have a need for that.
Of course, yeah, the vibrational factor you mentioned, and this is
That's right.
related to
That's right.
vibration. Affinity. If you are not affin with the next partner or with the next individual or neighbor or country,
Yes.
definitely those affin objectives or goals or visions that we have within are not compatible with those ones. Perhaps those are not the right paths to go, and separation is the best, of course. It's nature.
Yeah,
It's nature.
that's
Mm-hmm.
true. That's true. So the sixth and final one is developing a sense of lightheartedness. So being lighthearted about situations and also about ourselves, because when we're lighthearted about negative situations, we're also lighthearted about ourselves. It's all about taking what we do seriously, but not taking ourselves seriously.
Yeah.
When we're
I
being
like
lighthearted.
lighthearted.
Yeah.
Okay, lighthearted.
So this includes being spontaneous, using humor, playfulness, and these are all launching pads to being creative, and also continuing on our spiritual growth as well.
So
And
musical, being artistic. Yeah, use
absolutely, any of
art.
those things. It could be music, it could be art, it could be painting, it could be
Mathematics,
drawing, it could be sculpting.
writing.
It's limitless. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very true.
It could
Whatever
be
function
taking
you're doing,
pictures.
creative. Yeah.
Right, all that is important. And so this way, because in this way life seems a lot brighter. We're increasing our desire and our ability to uplift the lives of others around ourselves, which also uplifts us. In cultivating lightheartedness, we're creating and sustaining joy, and we're uplifting others and helping them to find peace in times of turmoil within themselves as well. We need to spend time just having fun, being playful, and celebrating. And celebrating when we find ourselves alone or with family and friends, and taking pleasure in the simple things in life that really makes a difference and makes our hearts
But
sing as
also, one important factor in resilience that we have to mention is the courage. I don't know if your research mentioned courage, but I will say to be resilient, you have to be voraciously courageous. You have to actually go for it. You have to want it badly. You really have to fight harder and smarter as well. I mean, you have to having all the tools, the mental set, the fluctuation that you are going to do it, and once you are on the path to do it, be courageous. I mean, that flexibility comes natural, but you have to have the will, the voluntary need, the mental set to do what it takes to do it. If you
well.
don't have that,
Yeah, but the thing is, Ramel, and I agree with you. However,
situation.
yeah, however,
Yeah,
yeah, okay, I agree with you. However, all that will come naturally.
it
If one
does. That's what
follows
I'm.
the steps that if one follows the steps that I'm explaining here, then one will naturally be fighting for what they want. One will be naturally, um, going after what it is that they desire,
That's it. Yeah.
and not taking no for an answer. Because if one's following all of these 6 steps, and the thing is, it will appear and seem effortless.
Okay.
One won't even realize that they're fighting for what they want if one follows these 6 steps that I'm discussing.
Yeah. Okay.
And if it's the right thing, and if one's so now you're talking about dreams and aspirations. So if one's heart is in their dream, right, there isn't anything that there isn't any one dream that's too extreme. And if one's heart is in their dream, they'll naturally go after what it is that they want because it's there. They feel it's there. They can feel it.
Yeah,
They
it's the path. Mm-hmm.
yeah, right. So and that goes back to there's that song by the character Jiminy Cricket in the from the Disney collection,
Okay.
right? And the name, what was the name of the song? It has to do with Jiminy Cricket with Pinocchio, and
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
and the song is
I don't know the name of the song. No. Pinocchio's the Pinocchio song, right? Mm.
yeah, I can't think of the name of the song now, but it's all about that.
Okay.
That's what the song is, and they've been playing that since you and I were like little kids. and it wasn't until I stopped to listen to the actual lyrics that
Uh-huh.
was really interesting.
Okay.
So what we need,
Uh,
so getting back to this here, so spending time, again, um, doing what our heart is singing, doing what it is that our heart is telling us to do, saying yes to new situations, which we talked about before, um, that make us laugh, force us to explore outside of our comfort zone, or prompt us to view life from a new perspective, bringing a sense of humor or silliness into every moment, and refusing to take life too seriously, aligning with our soul's passion and purpose, and sustain joy in our life. Spiritual resiliency is the key to joy, happiness, and leading a soul hearted life. The more that we lead a spiritually attuned life, the more resilient that we become, and it leads to a life of ease and grace.
Very interesting. Okay. Yes. Uh, uh, okay. I'm totally speechless. Yeah, well, what can I say about resilience? Resilience to me, it's is something that we grow. It's something that we cultivate.
Yeah.
It's something that we are born with. Actually, all humans are born with a natural aspect of change, aspect of
When you wish upon a star is the name of the song.
when you wish upon the star. That's right.
When you wish
And
upon a star.
we
Yeah.
wishing upon the stars. We are born with that idea
Yeah.
of being resilient, being uh, flexible to whatever change. We are constantly changing. We are constantly adapting to new our environment, and vice versa. The environment is changing as we focus on the things that we do and want to do. So it's a very interesting factor going on in here that we should be aware of. For example, diseases. What are diseases? If we perceive, if a person says is becoming ill, it's because that person is not being flexible, is not being aware, is not being conscious, because it's something is brain, it's draining into that specific sector of the mind. So put attention to what is causing the disease. It's responsibility of each and every one of us to actually change those specific factors. There shouldn't be any illness in our world. And this is the moment we are approaching. Actually, we are living. We are moving towards the much more consciousness levels.
Yeah.
Everybody is aware of these specific factors. Uh, so be aware. Not to, don't put stuff in your bodies. I mean, don't contaminate your bodies. Cultivate your body appropriately. Uh,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just want
that's
to so going back to that song, When You Wish Upon a Star, I just want to just read some of the lyrics here, because it's really catching.
yeah.
So it starts, when you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. If your heart is in your dream, no request is too extreme. When you wish upon a star like dreamers do. Fate is kind. She brings to those who love the sweet fulfillment of their secret longing. Like a bolt out of the blue, fate steps in and pulls you through. When you wish upon a star, your dream comes true.
Do you know that this is it's a magical brain vibrational frequency that it's actually getting into your brain and activating certain centers, like every other thing in vibration does. Every
Yes,
musical
yes.
is with a specific thing in mind. You have to understand that where is it coming from,
Yeah,
so and how to apply it. You have to be aware of how to make that specific wish, because you can apply it to everything. It's like the same thing is a mantra. It's a very powerful mantra because you have to apply it properly with consciousness,
Yes.
with what you have to know. You have to know how to do it,
You
and
have to
if you
bring
do
it,
it,
you have to have it in your mind, but also in your heart at the same time. The two of them have to
it's
be in sync. Yeah.
it's that subtle, it's that subtle,
Hmm.
that it goes so deeply into your unconscious that you are not aware of that it is happening. But that's the reason why you have to be aware of it, because you have to really
Yeah.
know how to use it. So
Yeah.
that's my only suggestion to that.
Great.
Uh, okay. Perfect. I mean, we had covered resilience factors, 7 factors that you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Can you just summarize this whole idea of resiliency in very quickly?
Sure. So,
Uh,
so again, so to be resilient, we need to, um, again, not take ourselves seriously, but take what we do seriously, um, and follow those 6 steps, which is really, really important. So, to be spiritual resilient, um, is to develop that positive mindset, have that positive mindset. Okay. At the same time, um, we want to, are you that bamboo? Are you that oak or the maple? Right. So also having that in mind, trusting and let go of any expectations that we may have, respond rather than react to situations is important. Okay. Um, cultivating a soul support group. So having the right people to surround yourself with who are going to help support and bring you up rather than not supporting you and bringing you down. And last but not least, again, developing that sense of lightheartedness. Don't take yourself seriously. Take what you do seriously. Be more creative. Get into that right side of the brain, um, and just allow yourself to dream. Allow yourself to just be. Right, is really, really important.
and wish for that something that you're looking for. That's
That's
awesome.
that's
I
right.
love the
That's right.
wishing upon the stars.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Greg. I mean, uh, wow, it's amazing how 1 hour goes just like that.
So true. So
Excellent.
true. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. And introspective self, the place where important conversations happen, and it's also the place where positive streams, life thoughts, self-awareness come together. Thank you so much for all your very courageous comments and your very important contributions. And be resilient. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much
But
for
we have
that.
to be resilient. Always be resilient. Yeah. We have to
Yes,
be like the
yes,
bamboo.
exactly, exactly.
We bend with the winds of change, no matter what direction is coming from, and then we always right ourselves in the end.
Right. And,
Yeah.
and, like the oak tree, it knows its surroundings. It's in one place specifically, and it knows very well its surroundings also, yeah. So knows you have to know what surrounds you, what is your bubble, but and how to communicate with other bubbles properly, open those bridges.
Yeah, but the problem with the oak tree is that if the wind is too strong, if the change is too strong, it'll be blown over, and then that's it. Right.
Yeah, it's too
That's
rigid,
the problem.
right? Don't be. Oh, so the actually the thought about the oak tree is be humble. Don't be so straight. I mean, be humble. That's important about the oak tree.
Well, that's also
That's
about the bamboo. The bamboo is also about being humble and
hmm
and um, and being able to bounce back from any change that no matter how severe or how hard it might be, the bamboo will
yeah.
always right itself.
Very, very neat.
Yeah.
And with this, we have concluded the introspective self. We are planning to run another episode next week, every Sunday at 11 o'clock. Oh, Greg, have you prepared anything for us for that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been giving it some thought. So the next topic could be um, um, self-love.
Self-love. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Self-love. Interesting. Okay. It seems to me that we are repeating certain chapters, but yeah, it's very important to really recognize what is going on into those
Well,
specific areas.
what we can do is we can surprise the viewers. We'll discuss and we'll surprise the viewers.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. Perfect. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the next chapter Sunday at 11 o'clock. Until
Okay,
then,
sounds
have a
great. We'll
great
see you then. Okay. Say
day.
hi to everybody for me. Okay,
Thank you.
take care.
I will.
Thanks.